Hey guys, hope everyone's doing well. And I wanted to start off very quickly with a bit of a quick apology for my little lull in my upload schedule. Just been kind of busy with work. We had a cold snap here in Colombia, so it kind of got a little chilly, so I've been busy at work. But I wanted to get back to some of the things I've been working on, some of the smaller projects, some things that I don't know, I just think people would find interesting. So, if you're able to recognize that, which you probably will be able to, it's quite recognizable design. We have a miniature Whelen WPS 2902 that's basically variable frequency, of course, depending on like what kind of cabinet it would be attached to. And now, by all means, I am not very familiar with the electronic sirens. I will admit that. Mechanical sirens and how mechanical sirens work specifically, and like the nomenclature behind them, and kind of like the interesting differences with the mechanical sirens, I completely understand that. But when it comes to like what kind of tone cabinets were used with certain models, driver voltages for certain models, as well as just like basically the what frequency of like what tone card they basically would be using on them, that kind of stuff is way beyond me, just mainly because I never really found it as interesting. But if that's what you're into, that's cool. Either way, this little model isn't really dependent on what kind of tone card you put on it, because of course this is not actually using a real tone card. This is a 2-cell model, of course, because it's only got 2 of the actual cells on it with the deflectors. And each one of the drivers that are in it is a little 5-watt speaker. It's a full range speaker driver. However, it's just it's basically like what you'd see in like a little set of computer speakers. These are removable cells. The whole things they all do come apart. They come apart the way the real cells kind of would. And that's basically just looking down at what the speaker looks like. It pretty much is just a desktop speaker. But the things that's kind of interesting about this is that I've kind of designed, not designed electronics from scratch, but I have sourced the electronics for it, kind of from scratch, just kind of going with my own little thing, trying to keep with the theme of generally staying around the same kind of volume level, and also I want them all to be powered by USB, so of course this siren is also USB powered as well. And well, with 2 5-watt speakers, and then the inefficiency in the actual amplifier, you start getting kind of close to the maximum allowable current you actually can pull from USB 2.0. So that was something I had to consider. Of course, if you're using a different charger to actually power the siren, of course you can have upwards of almost 20 watts in most cases. But this is basically just a little 10-watt speaker system. So to kind of go over what's going on here, of course we've got all the wires for each driver. So this is wired as the top cell, or the bottom cell, and this is wired as the top cell. And the wires come up and they run through the bottom channel. Let me go ahead and flip this over so you can kind of see what's going on. The one thing that sucks about FDM printers, which is mostly the reason why I'm kind of trying to transition away from using my FDM printer, is because you get, like, again, it's not super good at printing certain things, and it's very, very orientation dependent on what kind of look it's going to get. But when it comes to making this really, really small incline profile, it has a real tough time trying to get that to look smooth. So you see a lot of the rings that are on it, which is kind of unfortunate, but kind of just a details thing. Again, I'm trying to be a bit more of a stickler for details than I traditionally was. But getting into electronics, we'll go ahead and take a look at some of the stuff that's going on here. So this is, of course, a 5-volt powered amplifier. This is, again, 5 watts per channel. It has its own volume knob and also power switch. If you turn that volume knob all the way down, it will actually shut the amplifier off. And it uses a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, or line-in jack, basically. Just a pretty universal method of actually powering the siren. And this is actually a genuine Drock amplifier, so it's a pretty decent little tiny amplifier if you know anything about like the really small speaker stuff. So I have that driving the actual siren itself. And then kind of for funsies, my own kind of little thing I decided to do is I actually have a Bluetooth receiver board. These are like $5 off on Amazon. They're really, really easy to come by. But this is a little USB 5-volt driver board, or Bluetooth receiver board that I basically have this hooked up to. So rather than actually going and having the line in coming from, like, say, whatever your source is, you can actually connect it to Bluetooth, which is kind of nice, especially if you want to get some kind of like some decent distance recordings. Just something that is kind of added. Of course, if this is going to be sold, I really don't know if I'm going to do that, but if it is, this will all just be kind of like in its own little box, and you can basically have the plugs at the bottom, so you can plug into it and do whatever you want with it. And of course, all of them are going to look, I'm going to try to make them look like Whelen cabinets, but it's pretty cool. It's by far one of the more little than the more nifty little sirens I've made. It actually has some level of practical use. You really could actually just hook this up as on your computer or something like that, and basically run like your computer speakers through it, or use it as your computer speaker. Not super good in terms of fidelity, because these speakers that are in here, the actual drivers themselves, are not really full range. If you want an actual a good stereo system, obviously you're not going to try to play your music through a siren, but you can do it. I'm not going to do that here because I don't want to get DMCA copyrighted or something like that. I don't want to deal with that on YouTube because it's such a pain. But also, interesting thing about the amplifier, and trust me, I'm getting to the test footage, the little test I'm going to be doing. Interesting thing about the amplifier is that these are 2 ohm speakers. They have, actually no, I believe these are 4 ohm speakers actually. So they're 4 ohm speakers, 4 ohm impedance, and this amplifier is rated for up to 6 ohms, which is, I mean, that's still a lot better than 8, which is usually the standard you see in a lot of stuff. But I mean, thankfully we're kind of getting away from that high impedance stuff. But the interesting thing about this is that it sounds best at about half volume according to the knob. Pretty much anything above that and you start getting clipping, and it's really, really obvious. You can hear it very, very clearly through the speakers. You can hear the amp clipping. Either that, or it is also somewhat overdriving these speakers, because even though these speakers are rated for 5 watts a piece, and this amplifier is rated for 5 watts per channel, it really, I don't know. I've built speakers before in the past. I've built my own stereo system, and it really does sound a lot like this is the actual amp that's clipping. But you'll of course hear that in the recording. I'll screw around with the volume control a little bit. Now, I will not be using anyone else's tones, so I know that there's a couple of videos on YouTube that actually have people with like their siren recordings and stuff like that, and I respectfully do not want to use their content that is for their stuff. I have not asked permission for it, so I'm not going to be doing any of that kind of stuff. But just know that you can play, like if you go on on Siren Archives, as a channel, I'll link them down below. If you go to Siren Archives, you can actually listen to all the tones that come from Whelen. They have, I mean, he's got it set up for like 450 hertz, like a 450 hertz tone module, and you know, all the other stuff. Again, not a huge nerd when it comes to the electronic stuff, but I certainly would imagine there's someone out there who understands them a bit better than I do. But enough of me yammering. Let's go ahead and give it a bit of a test video and see what it sounds like. Now, as I said before, hi, you can see me in the background. As I said before, I'm not going to be using anyone else's actual tones or recordings, so you're actually just going to be seeing it off of this tone generator on my iPad. So that's basically what's going to be generating the tones for the siren. Now, I am going to hold the top of the siren because it does actually resonate quite a bit, and you get a really, really kind of messy tone from it. So I really just want to hold it down against the wood so it doesn't just kind of sit there and vibrate. Yeah, you can see it resonates really bad. well, now of course I'm getting Alright, I think that's a pretty good test to kind of give you an idea of what it sounds like. It does have a generally kind of cheapish sounding speaker sound. Some things to note, as I typically do with all my siren models that I've kind of just been working on. I figure it's kind of a good thing to talk over some of the things that are different about it, that are kind of just my engineering constraints, is the fact that it's just a model. Hold on. The microphone. Every friggin' time, man. I swear, I always forget. Anyway, moving on, as I was saying, some of the kind of engineering constraints I have to kind of work around with the fact that it's so small, and I do have kind of a purpose that I'm kind of trying to work towards here. So one of those things that I had to kind of work around is that if this is going to be mounted with, like, say, if this is going to be, say, like a 2910 or something like that, with a lot more arrays than just the simple 2-cell, I need all of that weight, which is going to be taken up on the lowermost cell. I need all that weight to not just like crush the model, or even like make it kind of like loose and kind of weak. So for that reason, oh my god. Okay. Anyways, again, all of that weight basically needs to be taken up by the bottom cell. So all of the weight that's basically being distributed through these sirens, there's no kind of bracing or anything like that. It basically is all supported on these little legs that kind of stick out. And on the real ones, they're a little bit smaller than I have made them here. And again, I had to make them just a bit thicker, just so that once this whole thing is actually 3D printed, if I do want to go ahead and make this, like, say, like I said, again, 29010, or not 29010, but a 2910, something with a bit more height and weight to it. I really want to make sure that these are going to be strong enough to actually hold it all up. So that's the reason why these are just a little bit thicker than normal. And another thing that's got to be added to it is that this whole thing does come apart still. So you can easily get in there, because I do intend on putting the actual little screen that goes around here to protect the driver from any debris and stuff getting in there. But yeah, I want to make it a 2-cell, because I thought it would be kind of cool if it was just a 2-cell, because you don't really see too many of those. They're either usually like single, or they're 2910s. So it's just kind of cool just to see it as a 2-cell. If this was to be eventually a 2910, one of the things that I would have to do is first off, it probably wouldn't be able to be USB power, just because that's, I mean, if this is 10 watts right here for just 2 drivers, I mean, it's not going to be enough current. There's not going to be enough current supplied by just that little USB port to actually operate the entire siren. So that's just one thing I kind of have to keep in mind here. Because I mean, that would be about 50 watts per channel, but that's not realistic, because even if I had the 10 cells actually on here, it would not be as loud as a 50-watt speakers. It's just something to kind of think about. So, but yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed watching this video. It's kind of an interesting one. And as promised, I would like to actually kind of give a shout out to someone who actually commented on one of my videos a while ago. I'm not sure what video it was on. It might have been when I was showing the lab, me 3D printing some stuff, or it might have been the mini STL10. Either way, it's one of those videos. It was actually a user, I believe his name is TriBlaster, who commented on one of my videos, kind of playing with the idea of doing something like this, and I liked it. It was kind of a unique thing to do, because you don't really see too many electronic miniature sirens on YouTube. I mean, I know BSP has a couple of them, but that's basically about it in terms of people who have actually made them. But yeah, of course I wanted to go with one of my favorite companies, I should say, in terms of electronic sirens, at least. Because I don't know, I like Whelen stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to give him a shout out. Great idea. I think it's pretty cool, and it's gonna be a lot of fun to kind of just play around with. Definitely gonna be something I'm gonna have hooked up to my computer, or I don't know. I don't really know what I'm gonna do with it yet. Either way, still cool. All right, this is probably gonna be really rattly, but I have it sitting on top of my little soft box there, so let's see how this works. Yeah, that's just resonance you're hearing. So let's just stop and do specifically just 439 hertz. It's kind of funny, because even though it's really only like 10 watts, the sound does carry quite well, actually. I'm surprised. Well, I think that just about wraps it up. There's really not much else I can do. Whoa, I'm zoomed in. All right, well, I think that just about wraps it up. It's getting cold, it's getting late, so it's kind of getting a bit darker out here, so it's a little hard to see the stuff anyway. Again, I was working today, so I didn't have very much time to get out here during the daytime. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you like and subscribe, follow for more, so you get to see kind of what's coming up next. I am working on making the STL10s. I'm trying to make them as fast as I can, to kind of get a nice collection of them first before I kind of put them on the shop, just because people just like cleaned out the Model 7s. I literally couldn't print them fast enough. So I want to make sure I have at least a good stock of the STL10s ready to go. But thanks for watching, guys. Again, comment, rate, and subscribe. You guys really don't have to do that kind of stuff, but it helps me out a lot. And hope to see you in the next video.